63 episodes ago, on the very first episode of Bullet Heaven, we took a look at the NES version of Capcom's 1943 The Battle of Midway. The NES version was very different than its arcade brethren, with progressive permanent upgrades, which included unlockable weaponry and password saves, which made for a fun, time-tested gameplay experience. Well, the NES version isn't the only version of 1943 to boast exclusive features.
In 1991, Knapsack Soft snagged licensing rights from Capcom for a PC Engine port of the arcade-only 1943 Kai, or Alternate, which boasts an all-new OST and brand new stage sets. These stages aren't found in both the arcade or NES versions of the original 1943, as well as the arcade Kai version. As a console first, 1943 Kai also featured two-player simultaneous play.
As such, 1943 Kai is pretty special. Let's take a closer look. The core gameplay in 1943 Kai is no different than any other game in Capcom's classic wartime-inspired series. Most stages are broken up between high-altitude battle and surface targets, and finally, a stage-end boss. Movement is sharp and responsive, making navigation a relative breeze, especially when compared to 1943 on NES. As with 1943 in particular, your plane has an energy gauge in lieu of actual lives that depletes over time and is reduced when your plane is hit. Restoring this energy is as simple as collecting a POW icon, but enhanced energy pickups in Capcom's famous Yashichi are much more efficient at this task, especially later on. Careful energy management and recovery throughout the game once again is critical as you make your way through to the later stages. However, in 1943 Kai, your energy gauge will also become larger as the game progresses.
Also returning from 1943 is the roll mechanic. Executing a roll is not just used to get out of the way in a hurry. A bomber-type maneuver can also be executed at the cost of some of your energy, which makes short work of smaller enemies and their bullets. If you press select though, you can conserve your roll stock while wreaking havoc with a lightning attack that reduces your energy store slightly. This adds a layer of strategy to the mix, and makes for a pretty fluid experience, especially when the screen gets super cluttered.
Not that the screen clutter is a problem with a decent understanding of the weapon systems in 1943 Kai. Shooting POW icons will allow for various weapons to be obtained through a specific cycle, including side fighters, lasers, shotguns, and the Capcom classic Super Shell. These weapons are only usable for a finite amount of time, though collecting multiple pickups of the same type will stack and increase the amount of time a player can use them.
But not only do multiple pickups of the same type increase the duration of the weapons obtained, they also increase their power. The laser, for example, changes color from yellow to purple and is twice as powerful. The shotgun fires more rapidly. Teamed up with side fighters, the weapons in 1943 Kai become quite devastating. Careful weapon management is definitely required to take on and claim victory in the final 5 stages of the 12 in this version, which are exclusive to the PC Engine. In these stages, the Steerman biplane even gets a radical enhancement with even more devastating weaponry and rockets.
Finally, like other versions of 1943, the most complete destruction of the end-stage targets is required to progress. If not enough of the boss is destroyed, a player is sent back to the beginning of the mission phase to try again. This version of 1943 Kai is supremely playable, perhaps even the best one there is. The difficulty is such that a 1cc is obtained fairly easily by veteran players, but the hard mode should be enough to test anyone's mettle. Score mechanics in early shooters such as 1943 and its variants are far from complicated. Basically, shooting and destroying as much as possible is all you need to do, with a couple of exceptions. If certain enemy waves are destroyed, special planes can appear which, if shot, will spin out of control and reveal stars for an enhanced score.
In various spots, special score pickups can also be obtained. Destroying certain boss elements will reveal a cow, for example. Strawberries and buckets are also revealed when shot at in certain parts of the stages as well. Overall, nothing special, but it's still fun to find the hidden items throughout the game.
Capcom has always had a pretty strong presentation within the 1940X series, given the times that they were created, but the Naxat PC Engine conversion is just fantastic. The game is in Japanese for the most part, yet the ending, arguably the most important part translation-wise, is in full English.
Bright and colorful, with fantastic game engine, tons of planes can fill the screen with very little slowdown to speak of. Doesn't hurt that the mechanical design is also pretty tops. The stages are pretty awesome later in the game as well, with sweeping clouds, cool lava effects, and more. Giant bosses with intricate designs and cool weapons and explosion effects make for a great visual presentation.
There's a bit of a drawback to the visual performance though. To get things up to speed, especially in 2-player, there's an awful lot of interlace. So while everything is visible on a regular TV, it didn't exactly agree with our capture equipment, and that's why this episode is a little blurrier than most. On the whole, the sound effects are pretty spot on as well, with a variety of non-invasive sounds that more or less match what's on screen. Speaking of sound, the PC Engine OST is just amazing. It definitely kicks the arcade and NES soundtracks out of the water. Most of the musical selections are simply incredible, especially in the PC Engine exclusive stages, and even exhibit a strong Airzong vibe.
Great game that even I was actually able to get into, and it was a really fun ride while it lasted. But how does it stack up? Let's take a look.
With super sharp controls complemented by almost zero slowdown, the control in 1943 Kai on PC Engine could be the best in the series.
Controls like these can make even novices feel right at home.
Though the normal difficulty can be a bit easy for veterans, the difficulty feels just right for novices. Harder modes are available in the options.
The stages up to stage 8 are fairly tame, but get really crowded really fast from there. Good challenge.
At 12 stages, it's not the longest game in the series by a long shot, but it's still manageable without the need for password saves.
There's a lot to play through in this game, but it feels a bit long, especially with no password save like in the original 1943.
Bright colors and sweet mechanical design make for an engaging visual presentation.
The graphics here are really well done for their time and run quite smoothly.
The OST in this version of 1943 Kai is easily the best, with fantastic tunes and a sweet classic PC Engine vibe.
The sound is vibrant and the music is pretty catchy.
Ingenuity-wise, there's nothing new to this game outside of new stages and music for the PC Engine version, and some enhanced weapons later on. The concepts here are series mainstays and basically remain unchanged from both 1943 arcade games and beyond.
Unfortunately, 1943 Kai feels pretty samey, especially with 4 versions of 1943 between the PC Engine, NES, and arcade.
I've been a fan of this series starting with 1942 as far back as when I was 8 years old. Since then, of all the different titles and versions I've played, 1943 Kai is easily my favorite of the lot, and it gets a 4 out of 5. 1943 Kai is a bit of an uncommon game for the PC Engine. In fact, at the time that I got it for the show, it was the only one up for auction. It's also fairly pricey these days at about $50 to $70, or, deep breath, $250 for a sealed copy. So there's that. And as with other PC Engine HuCard games, it's not region-free, and no North American version is available for the TurboGrafx-16. But if there was ever a reason to get a PC Engine unit, even just to play import HuCard games, 1943 Kai is a pretty good one.